Why would it do that? Grrr. That's really a little turd. Ha! I knew it! I knew I'd forget something. I mute my mic during the preamble and don't always remember to unmute it.
I knew I'd forget something.
Oh, what's that? One of my streams playing sound? I knew I'd forget multiple things.
Always remember to unmute it.
God damn it.
Oh, what's that?
I see which one it is. I see which one it is. How you doing? I'm doing alright, I think, considering... I think like every single time I manage to mess up my opening, every single time it catches me off guard, every single time I'm like, oh, right, what am I doing? What am I doing? Right, as I was saying, I'm answering people's questions today. You know, I've done like, I don't know how many of these workouts now. I started like in 2019, late 2019, doing these weekly voice workouts. We've done a lot of voice workouts. I've covered pretty much all the basics, covered putting it together. I've tried my best to kind of create a system that you could, you know, follow along with and develop your abilities and get stronger and, you know, get your voice in a direction you want it to be in. But there's only so much I can do with that one-sided, yeah? Eventually, at a certain point, I think people might need some feedback. They might need some direct instruction. Maybe I haven't covered something that you need covered. I can't know unless you tell me. So that's what today's all about. You know, I'm just hanging out. There's no pressure to make it anything beyond, you know, hanging out, really. We don't have to put pressure on ourselves every single week to bust our butts, right? Oh, I don't like the idea of Brie answering 2 questions in one stream. I mean, I'm gonna answer more than 2 questions, don't worry. How important is daily practice? How much practice is enough versus too much? Well, Racer Mickey, I will tell you this. You don't have to practice every day, but it really does help if you do. I practiced every day when I was getting into the whole voice training thing. I was taking it really seriously. And this flows into the second part of your question of how much is too much. And when it comes to too much, I started with an hour, as I often try to keep these streams to about an hour, because it is easy to hurt yourself if you know, go for too long early on. As you get going, you eventually need to be doing it for more than an hour. So as I was saying, I did it for basically every single day. I think I would take weekends off at first, so maybe starting out 5 days a week, an hour a day, eventually moving to 7 days a week for an hour a day, and then when that felt good, it was 7 days a week, you know, maybe really it became like 8 hours a day, and that's a complicated thing. I was a teacher in Thailand, and I was all alone in the art room for like 8 hours a day basically, and I would practice my voice narrating everything, and you know, that would be some pretty good training. And then I'd get kind of not, you know, burnt out, but it would be hard, but not like a serious directed training. So then I'd go home and do an hour workout that was like the really hard stuff, and that would you know, get me a little sore, and I wouldn't do anything else the rest of the day, try and rest my voice, and then go to sleep and wake up and do it again. And that's a pretty extreme, I realize. I think most people aren't going to be able to train that hard, but eventually you do need to get to a point, since this is our voice, right? You're trying to speak, and you're going to be speaking presumably for more than an hour at a time in the future, depending on what you do for a living and what your life is like. But you will have to eventually graduate to a point where you are doing this every day, and you're doing it for more than an hour at a time. So baby steps, start out small and then build up from there. Something you can do as a daily warm-up, breathing. I always start off our sessions with breathing. We haven't done that necessarily today because it's a bit of a question period, but on that note, while I'm sitting here talking, not a bad idea for you to be sitting there, shoulders relaxed, doing your diaphragmatic breathing. I got that right? There we go. Not that you needed me to put that there, but I like it. It's fun. Hee 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 hee. And breathing in through your nose, using your stomach to draw your breath in. We cover this all the freaking time. I don't want to go into a whole lot of detail about how to breathe with your diaphragm. But learning how to manage your breath, learning how to control how long you're breathing in and out for, that's an easy thing you can do every day. And in terms of a daily warm-up, I would recommend doing like if you can't really do anything else, your creaky door type stuff, the I do that every single one of our sessions because it's that important. If you're only working on that stuff, the tightness in the throat, trying to concentrate your voice up into your nose, that's gonna go really far distance. It's gonna give you a lot of legs in your training. If all you can do is a little bit of like getting your voice up into your face and your nose, or doing the Bugs Bunny we always do, I got that, or Cat Girl, either one, whichever one helps you visualize it more. But the up in here, the often, like if I'm at the end of a long day, getting tired, my voice is like dropping down into here or something. I just get it up into here. You know, now my voice is up in my face. It's a lot smaller. And, then I can breathy, as we often cover, and soften it up. It's in my face. It's softened. My voice is pretty again. And yes, Wingless, that was Giorno Chungus. Big, long story behind that. Well, long story short, my girlfriend would troll me. We'd all be set up to watch the new episode of JoJo, and she'd put on the Big Chungus anime opening theme. She'd get me every single freaking time. That bitch. I love her. I'm going to check on over at other questions. I've been answering a lot of Twitch questions, but just in case other people on other platforms are asking things, get typing. If you have a question about voice, now's the time. And I can elaborate on any of the things I've mentioned so far. This is the first time I think I've really, done a stream that's entirely focused on answering questions, so... Oh. Someone, that person, though, who's having trouble with Facebook, if they're still having trouble with Facebook, I can give them the Twitch link, but I've got a feeling their Facebook problem came from the opening where, I was, accidentally on a muted mic, which I feel pretty silly about. Gotta make a fool of myself every stream at least once, No? No more questions? I mean, I know there's people who have questions. I had people say, oh yes, I definitely have a question. I'll ask it to you on stream. So, I know y'all have questions. It doesn't have to be a voice question too, I suppose. I mean, we're all here hanging out. I already answered the Chungus question. But, yep. I didn't want to put a lot of pressure on myself to be, performing and having a tight plan for a lesson this week. I wanted to keep it pretty open to what people had. If you've got, anything you're needing help with. If you're in chat now and there's anything I've done in any video that you're wanting help with, give me a little comment here even. How do we discover the right pitch and tone for us? Not too high and not too low. Oh, that is a very complex one. It's going to be one part personal preference and the other part what your capabilities are. When I was doing my training, I was told that you want to keep your voice between 180 and 220 hertz. That's typically the average for most female voices. Where I am in that varies quite a bit. There are definitely times where I dip below there and times where I go above there. And it's all about moving around. Staying at one average pitch in a monotone manner isn't exactly what we want. We want it to be a little more fluid, right? You could have a maximum pitch that exceeds the normal range and a minimum pitch that, goes below it. And it won't matter so long as you understand these other aspects of voice, such as the nasal and the softness and that sort of stuff. And the tightness. In terms of figuring out where your pitch needs to be, it's going to be about what you can achieve and what sounds good. I recommend recording yourself. I You know, you'd think in all the time I'd been doing this, these public lessons, I'd have discovered a new pitch analyzing software that I liked, but I keep moving around operating systems, and everybody has a different operating system. So I don't always have a good, like idea for like a pitch recording software or a pitch testing software. But you get yourself a good pitch tester. There's zillions out there, any search in an app store will get you one. Have a look at that. Record yourself while doing it so you can hear what it sounds like accurately. And then you'll see, and some of these things are built in one, right? It's an app that records as well as analyzes your pitch. And in doing that, you'll see, like, oh, well, this sounds really good. And it's in this range, like, or I don't like how this sounds despite the fact that it's, up high. And then you can realize, well, what am I doing wrong in terms of this, seeing as I've got it supposedly in the pitch that I want, but it still isn't what I am looking for. And it might have to do with, like, not enough softness in the breathiness. You're not getting that kind of squeak in the nose. Like, a lot of people try to go higher pitch, and it's just sort of like, how to do it. Ha, 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 ha. And they're talking up here. Right now I'm in my falsetto. That's not really appropriate to speak in. Technically it would be registered as a high pitch, but it's not really sounding very good, So it's about quality, the resonance, the je ne sais quoi. I guess resonance is the main term people use. I just like synonyms. And it's about what you're doing with the speech and how it's sounding rather than the literal pitch. And it's a back and forth sometimes. Like, I've given the advice to students in the past, even very recently, where it was like, oh, you're doing a lot of this stuff right. I would actually just like to see you doing it at a higher pitch, and then it would probably sound a lot stronger at this point in time. I've got 2 questions here on Twitch. Enunciation does matter quite a bit. You may notice that I enunciate a fair amount, and that is a more feminine hallmark of speech, typically. I don't know the science, but typically women tend to enunciate their voices, whereas men, perhaps they don't have as much pressure put on them to correct themselves or to be accurate, so they can get away with just kind of slurring their speech and speaking kind of monotone and not really, putting any emphasis on anything in particular, because who cares, right? And when you enunciate, not only though is it playing into these ideas of a feminine voice, but also it is also, why isn't chat showing up? It definitely should be showing up. Show up on my screen, you baddie. But also, when it comes to enunciation, it will help you be more accurate in the sounds that you make. You will be making, very specific choices in what you do, right? Like, even, when we practice the first baby steps of speaking, we usually do, this is the voice I want to use. We break it up very clear, like, this is the voice, right? Like, you're really, simplifying it, breaking it down, being clear, and I'm losing my words here, intentional with every sound that you make. Being enunciating is being intentional, and in doing so you will have more control over what you say and how you sound. And a lot of what we're doing is about having control, right? So enunciation, very important. I need some water. Also, like, my chat's definitely not showing up on screen. It was earlier. What's its problem? Why has it got to be a big jerk like that? I'm gonna try something. Sometimes when things are big jerks, I don't mean to interrupt my stream with technical garbage, but what else is new in my life? Sometimes when things are being big jerks, you just gotta do them again. Oh, there we go. Now it's magically coming back. I don't know. It is now. I'm happy. I'm fine with that. I mean, it's not showing all of the chat that I totally see others up here on the screen, but fine. I'm going to answer the stream schedule one really quickly. Hi, Nixel. I'd also wish to be taking more of a break from social media because I don't like it. The stream schedule I keep is Sundays, Tuesdays, and Thursdays, always at 6 p.m. PST for completely, definitely satanic reasons. 6 p.m. Sunday is the Sunday Portrait, where I draw people and talk to them. This week I'm talking to my friend Theodora from the musical group. I think it's more than one person. Torvis. I've had their music on my streams a few times. That's going to be a good conversation. Really excited to draw Theodora. Tuesday is my toy stream, Dollar Store Kit Bash, where I make toys. And this next week, I'm going to be getting back to working on the Kung Fu Action Barbie I've been building. And then, of course, Thursdays is voice stream. I'll do other streams to do with art when I've, I don't know, got more of a wherewithal, because I do want to be streaming my art more again like I used to. But right now, 3 streams is plenty. One more Twitch question before I switch over from Cabot Girl. Hi, Cabot. The face voice. So this is something we cover a lot in a lot of the lessons in the streams. And as I displayed just briefly earlier, the whole cat girl or Bugs Bunny. Oh, I moved those on top of each other, didn't I? Bugs Bunny's the one I started with. Because you do this, you get up into your nose first, like the... And it might take some practice to get good at that. And by the way, feel free to try this stuff at home. I won't do the whole your turn thing unless we really get down to some exercises. Depends what kind of questions come up. But feel free to follow along and try this out. This whole... Like you're going like, what's up, Doc? And you can be like talking up in your nose. This is a good starting place to get into your face. It's not going to be a finished voice, but it's going to start teaching you about how to concentrate this up in your face. Oftentimes, as I mentioned earlier about, I can't even remember what the question was, but I get, down here, right? And got to get up into my face a little more, right? And so doing something like, or, which is basically in reverse, right? The what I call the rusty gate, the tightness in the throat. If you're feeling overwhelmed, Cabot, I think you should start with, honestly, my first video. I cover all the basics in that on my it's on my YouTube channel. If I haven't given you a link to my YouTube channel before, I can, I could just put that right now. I am streaming on YouTube too right now. It's gonna be complicated. Can you... Oh yeah, I don't mind doing this, but you should crack open one of my earlier videos, probably, if you're really truly having a hard time understanding where to start with all this training. I would start with one of my first videos because it just covers the basics, and I can explain that too while I try and find this. I've got it right here. Copy. Paste. That's got all my old stuff. I think all my old streams are also on my Twitch channel and stuff. I don't know. It's a mess. I know. My branding's all over the place. But it's normal to feel scared and overwhelmed. That's why I started doing this stuff, because it's so difficult. Voice training is really intimidating. Transition is really intimidating. And I started doing voice training for others because I remember when I was first starting out with transition, I didn't really think it was even possible to do it at all, right? And finding out that it was possible to train my voice made it feel possible to transition at all. But I remember that feeling of being really intimidated and just not knowing where to start. Usually I have people start with the basics of like breathy voice and pinchy voice, as I was sort of describing earlier, where you got the pinchy is this Bugs Bunny, the tight up in here, right? That's the face voice. Clenching with my throat to constrict my voice box and also catch my voice to keep it from going down to my chest, as well as having it up in my nose to keep it shrunken down. And also the soft, breathy, gentle voice that focuses on moving lots of air. Practice those 2 basic voices in isolation, and I've got all kinds of exercises in all those videos about just doing that in isolation. Really simplified forms. I fear sometimes that my lessons are all very similar because we're practicing those basic things, doing vowel sounds like a, E or ah, a, e, and practicing those in the different basic voices so that way you're just learning the ropes. You're learning just like how to control your voice in these different ways, how to tighten it up and how to soften it, relax it. And when you can learn to tighten it and relax it to a very high degree of performance, perhaps at high pitches and getting the nice quality of sounds that we're looking for, lots of air on your hand, or lots of creakiness, or lots of, nasaliness and almost squeakiness. If you can get those qualities, then you start learning how to flow between them. And I do that in a lot of my basic videos where, we would do the old, right, flowing between soft and hard. I cover that in a lot of different videos, and we can talk about it more tonight. I just don't want to dwell on this one question. Well, I know for a fact we got other questions happening. But hopefully that gives you a sense of like where to start and where it's going. The basics, breathy and pinchy, then learning to put them together over time. I'm going to turn off this Bugs Bunny. And then I'm going to have a look. I know there's other comments and questions coming in. Oh, hi, Ashley. Well, Jotaro. Well, I guess it's technically a Giorno Chungus, but I mean, they're all JoJo Chunguses. I feel like I should show that video at some point if people are really curious about what the heck's going on. Yeah, so the kinds of exercises, this is more of another Cabot question from another platform, and I don't mind answering it for Q Cabot. A lot of exercise we do in addition to those basic breathy and pinchy. I mentioned earlier the creaky door, that and the yawning is a typical warm-up we do, which is kind of, the reverse. It's like the Bugs Bunny, but for breath. The Bugs Bunny is the yawning is just you're settling into it, pushing out your breath, and getting air on your hand, as we do frequently. Yeah, you should watch the first video, Cabot. I think that'd be a good place for you to start out on this. And then you can get back to me. We talked about talking privately about some of this. Yep. Oh, reading aloud can be a great training as well. The main thing is to make sure you're doing it in a manner that is, following these principles, or it playing into some aspect of voice you're trying to work on, right? So reading aloud in a breathy voice can be good training if you're trying to develop your breathy. Reading aloud in a pinchy voice can be good if you're trying to develop your pinchy. And if you're at that point where you are putting them together, you're learning to flow between breathy and pinchy, and you have this kind of hybrid voice, then yeah, reading aloud is going to be good for that too. The main thing also goes back to that prior issue of enunciation and intentionality. Be very intentional in how you read. In fact, you know what? I think this is a good opportunity. Give a chance for another question to be asked on another platform. I'm just making sure there aren't any I'm missing before I dive into this. But I'm going to pull up an article to read. I mean, I could pull up that insulting book I was reading from, but I'm just going to pull up the old Wikipedia. Because I'm going to show you how I would probably read something if I was trying to figure out my voice. Okay, from today's featured article, The Mercenary War. I'm going to do it. I'm going to do this in a blended voice, and I'll show you what I would do. So, I mentioned the old, the slow. I'm going to go pinchy to breathy because it's the more important one. Okay, not to be too ADD on this whole thing, but a quick aside. Most of my blending that happens in my voice here I'm starting more in the pinchy and going into the breathy. So I would start with like a ah, and then I would try and shorten that up to get to a faster blend. So listen here. Ah, 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 a, e, I, o. And then I would read this like that. So, the mercenary war, also known as the truceless, or if you're having trouble with multiple syllables, truceless war, was a mute or mutiny or mute tin e. You see how I'm breaking it down? I'm turning it into little bite-sized pieces that I can do a little fast blend through, right? Obviously, nobody would speak that way. You wouldn't want that to be your final voice, but it didn't sound terrible as a voice outside of the fact that I was speaking one word at etc. I'm not going to finish it. You know, like outside of that, it wasn't bad, right? That's not a bad way to start training, you know? You're reading aloud as you get better at it, of course, could become more natural, more fluid. Like, okay, backtrack slightly. At the end of every training session I would do personally, I would typically give myself a little free time. I haven't quite figured out a way to properly do that in a live stream voice lesson because, like, I can't live stream you having free speaking time, you know? I could put up a little thing for you to read out, I suppose. Not a bad idea. But I would give myself a little bit of free time where I would just be trying my very best to speak in a voice that sounded good. I'd be trying to maybe implement that breathy or that pinchy, just trying to go higher pitched. It usually, in the early days, the voice wouldn't be great, but it's just an opportunity for me to give it my best, you know, just really go for it. And I would record myself typically during that because, one, as I only briefly mentioned earlier, and I'll just say now, recording it and then playing it back is going to give you a more accurate view of what your voice sounds like compared to just listening to it out loud as you speak, right? Although, another quick aside on everything, asides within asides, what you can do is talk like this and have your hands behind your ears, and that will actually do a pretty good job of simulating what your voice sounds like to other people without having to record yourself. But also, of course, recording yourself and playing it back is preserving it for posterity, especially if you make sounds that you really like and you want to be able to reproduce. And so what I would do at the end of a lesson is I would give myself a little bit of free time, speaking in my best attempt at a voice based on what I'd been working on, and I would record it so I could listen back to it. And in doing that, I would, of course, I feel like I've lost my train of thought within that aside. Giving myself the free time to give myself, you know, speak with a voice that I was liking. And then maybe within that, I could read something, right? And, you know, I could give you an example here, but that's mostly just me reading now with my real voice. But it would give you, okay, I'll tell you what I'm going to be trying to do. Say, okay, I'm going to read this out. I want to be practicing my voice. It's my natural speaking voice that I'm trying to make really good. And I'm doing the fast blend, but I don't want it to be monotone like I was when I was doing it all in one syllable or whatever, right? Like I want to be moving around, going up and down and in pitch and emphasizing things. So the war began in 2041 BC as a dispute over wages. See how I'm emphasizing things with pitch and that tightness? Wages owed to 20,000 foreign soldiers. It erupted into a full-scale mutiny. Now let's say I didn't like erupted. Say it erupted. Oh, erupted. 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 This goes like that dead. Maybe I don't want that. Maybe I want erupted. 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 It erupted in full-scale mutiny that included 70,000 Africans from Carthage's oppressed, dependent territories. Got into some many-syllable words there, and I slowed down a little bit. I wanted to make sure I had control. It still sounded relatively natural. I was still emphasizing different aspects of each word, but I gave myself that space because why should I rush myself? You don't have to rush for anybody when you're speaking. Even in real life, it's not even training. You're talking to somebody, but you're still figuring your voice out. You could slow down. Like right now, I'm taking a moment to take a breath in between every few words that I say. I'm not rushing through anything. I'm not going to let myself get flustered. I'm closing my eyes right now because I don't want to get distracted by all these Wikipedia stuff on my screen in front of me. I can take my time. And unless you're talking to somebody who's a big jerk, it shouldn't be a big deal. And in taking your time and giving yourself room to breathe, you can gather your thoughts and you can be very clear and intentional, there's that word again, about how you're speaking. And in doing that, you're going to be speaking at the best you can be doing in that moment. And that's just being fair to yourself. You deserve to be speaking the best you can be. If that's, you're wanting to change your voice, you're wanting to feel good about your voice, then don't let other people rush you, inside of training or outside of training. That was yet another aside. I'm glad these tips are helping you, Ashley. I feel like I've gone off on a lot of weird asides, but you can't always know what direction we need to be going in, eh? Just gonna refresh some streams to make sure, I'm not, missing anything. Even in fighting games. Yeah, that's true. Okay. Wingless. This is for Wingless. I gotta follow my own advice on this when it comes to fighting games. Don't get rushed. Why? No hurries, no worries, right? What are some things to avoid so we don't set ourselves back? Well, the main thing to avoid is that chesty voice. Honestly, I've been doing voice stuff now for it's been 6 years. 6 years of voice training. And it's really difficult at this point for me to speak in a way that I would consider masculine, bad habits in training, as I really worked hard to eliminate those bad habits. But the main bad habit I really had to work hard to eliminate was, I'm going to try and do it, but as I said, I worked hard to eliminate. It's hard to do. It's coming, I don't even know. It's kind of down here in my chest. I'm still totally using my throat. I'm still tight. It's like I've undone the habit of that heavy, booming, chesty voice, which I think most of us are trying to avoid. And that's the main thing. If you're not doing that and you're like, the rest of the stuff kind of eludes you, you're going to go a really far way. At least that's going to have a lot of legs on its own. And the main way to avoid that is actually in these two things we talk about. Jebediah Springfield voice. The way to avoid the Jebediah Springfield voice is these two things. The softness, the breathiness helps lighten it. Even that, though, it's hard. I've eliminated the habit somewhat, but it's this heavy, smoky, lounge singer voice, husky voice. Nothing wrong with a husky voice, darling, but it still has a little bit of the chest in it. So it is possible to still be doing the chestiness, even as you soften your voice. You have to bring it up into your face more. And of course, the main way to do that is with the tightness, the pitchy voice, right? Keeping it out of your chest is the number one main thing. The other actually really important habit to avoid, and this was something that I was kind of displaying earlier in my little rant about taking your time, taking a breath, not rushing, is not saying and ah. When you say when you're talking, you're wasting your breath. And oftentimes it drags you down. What I've heard voice people refer to as an anchor. Sounds and actions and habits can be anchors for our voices, which bring them down into the chest again, right? So you'll notice now I'm talking a little more like this. The vocal fry. You'll find that kind of thing in our creaky door, or the grudge ghost, the that. If you talk like this, or you implement this vocal fry in your voice, it will catch it. As I'm sure I mentioned at least one other time during this stream, is you come down, like the whole, yeah, you're catching it in your throat, which is going to keep it from going down into that boomingness. Like when I was trying to do the Jebediah Springfield voice, it was still a little bit of this happening because I've trained myself to catch it in here. So this isn't so much a bad habit to avoid as a good habit to pick up. Practice the vocal fry, and it will keep you from going down into your chest, into the Jebediah Springfield voice. Hi, Lily. Glad you could make it. No hurries, no worries. Checking on comments on other places besides Twitch. See that? Twitch. How can I squeak that better? It's a weird sound. I've got T and W, I going into a ch. Twitch. Tight. Squeak, releasing into a breath at the end. Twitch. Breathy, releasing into a tightening ch. Twitch. Trying to answer some more questions beyond Twitch. Other platforms besides Twitch. You gotta practice sounds that you don't like. It's easy to practice things. This is a bad habit we can break in just about anything we do. Hi, Sibitsu. It's easy to only practice the things that we want to practice. Oh, I'm really good at breathy. I'm gonna do just breathy and go higher and higher in pitch on breathy. Hey, that's great. You've got enthusiasm practicing that thing. It's great you're challenging yourself. It's really good to give yourself confidence by working on the things that feel good and that you're good at. But it can have the effect of avoiding, of course, the things you need to be working on, your weak spots. You know, the old trope with artists that, they can draw beautiful images, but they don't know how to draw hands. You gotta draw hands. When it comes to your voice, draw your hands. Figuratively. Make sure you find those sounds that you don't feel so confident on. Maybe you're not as good at pinchy, which leads into another question I see coming up here. Maybe you're, not as good at open sounds, your O's and your oohs and your ahs. Practice those. And you can also, as we often do, some variation of in these videos, back-to-back training. Do I have that? Did I get rid of that thing? I used to have a little thing because I like visuals. Nah, I don't see it here. I got rid of it. Back-to-back training. It's, you do something, and then right afterwards you do another thing. Say I'm really good at E in pinchy, but I'm not so good at O in pinchy. I could go E, O. Yeah? Or say I'm really good at O in breathy, but not so good at E in pinchy. Do you do the same thing, right? O, E. Right afterwards, I have a little, I talk about the diaphragmatic breathing. I keep that tension in my diaphragm after the, it's still a little tight in my tummy because I want to hold on to that. And I'm relaxed up in here. I'm empty up in here, but still flexing my diaphragm. And it's all kind of primed. It's all in the exact same place. I'm like, I wish there was some visual way to show you, but right now I'm like primed. I haven't released that. I'm all ready to go. E, O. So like when you do the back-to-back thing, it's like, I know how to do O, but my E isn't as good. So if I do my O but don't leave the O zone, not to get into some weird innuendo-y thing, and then do E right afterwards, my E is going to be a lot more like my O and hopefully have the good qualities that it has. O, E. And then, of course, you can go higher. O, E, O, E, O, E. Oh, I'm reaching my limit there. It didn't sound as good. Also, I'm getting lightheaded and I definitely need some water. That's better. You can do back-to-back training to make your good points, make your stronger points strong, or your weaker points stronger, yeah? So that way you can get around avoiding these things. Good habit to get into. Right. I had another question I know I needed to answer. Before I dive in the next one, I know this busy is dizzy was asking, how do I mow? Oh, I thought it was, how do you mean? I thought it was relating to the previous one. Oh, talk to you Sunday, Miki. Thanks for all the great questions. I'm going to put a pin in busies because I know we had Lily's question here. First, what are the better ways to practice squeaking? And you know what? These two are related. A little bit. So the better way to practice using squeaking in training. So I already, you know, the main thing is the old creaky door, the that's the tightness starting in our easy to spot right at the bottom of the throat, that grudge ghost, bringing the tightness up into the face more smoothly. And, you know, anyone who watches all these videos knows there's a zillion ways to do that. We cover it in a lot of different videos. You know, but the idea is the squeak is the tightness in the throat as well as resonance up in the nose. I'm not gonna lie, I don't fully understand all the science behind it. I'm not a speech therapist. All I know is when I'm doing that stuff, that squeaky stuff, tight in the throat, lots of nasal. And so doing your squeaking, the creaky door is a great place to start with the You can do that with lots of sounds. We do that in lots of videos. The A, E, I, O. You can practice a sentence. We often do, this is the voice I want to use. You can go, this is the voice I want to use. Oof. That's a workout. And from there, okay, you can squeak on just about any sound you want, but you don't always get this chance to go, right? That's not, when does that happen, right? We have to learn to be able to pull it out like that, just instantly, right? So creaky door, you can do this with all these sounds, and you can learn to do it faster. Like we do the long drawn out ones, the oh, see you, Wingless. Thanks for the company. Slow ones are good, but faster ones are more like real life. They're more like how you're going to be speaking, right? So you could go, very quickly, right? And say, oh, I want to challenge myself on that. Usually the way we'd challenge the pitch or getting it higher, more into the nose, would be to draw it out longer and longer, right? But there's another way you can do it. You could do little jumps that go up. Like your bottom and your ceiling go up together. So starting down low, like here, be like, that's a workout. Your throat's gonna hurt after that one. Did I mention you should be really careful with this kind of stuff, all the tight stuff especially? Drink lots of water. Don't train for more than an hour at a time at the very beginning, especially. Listen to your body. If it's starting to hurt a lot, maybe stop. And also at the end of your session, try not to talk too much for a couple hours. Give your voice a rest. You don't need to overwork it. But doing that kind of thing, the tightening it up in small jumps, small, quick little jumps going up, that's a good way to, one, challenge your pitch and develop your ability to squeak at higher and higher ranges, but also to be able to pull it out in an instant, you know? Like, just, very suddenly. Just, starting up. Oh, that was no good. Starting. I don't often start at a high note is the thing. It's asking yourself a lot to start on a high note. Starting out. Basically, I feel like I lost my train of thought, getting lost on trying to make starting sound nice. Forgive me. You can move it up higher and higher. You can you learn how to pull it out faster. And then you can have it like basically be starting at your highest point. That's what I wanted to say. And as I displayed, that's not easy to do. Typically, it's something you do in the middle of a sentence. Just like I said, oh, in real life, we don't get the whole Well, in real life, we do, though, get to say a whole sentence, right? If I go to the Wikipedia, you know, the Carthaginian general Hamilcar Barca, see, like I got a little bit of a wind up to it, initially demonstrated leniency to woo rebels over, but pursued the war with great brutality. They tortured. And like, you know, like I can do it. I'm kind of trying to, I think, ham it up a little bit to make it very clear and obvious. I'm going to try a little more natural one. It ended late 238 in 237 BC with a Carthaginian victory. An expedition was prepared to reoccupy Sardinia. You see there, I think it was a little more natural. I was able to just like quickly go up into a little squeaky spot to emphasize like Sardinia, you know, or something like that. And in doing this, the short jump where you're starting higher and higher and eventually doing it, starting in basically at the top of your range, you'll be able to do those little quick emphases. Emphases? I don't know what the proper plural for that word is. Emphasizing crap in your sentences. You'll be able to do that very quickly in the middle of a sentence or the middle of a word, yeah? And then, yeah, go through a sentence. That's the final thing I wanted to say with practicing the squeak. Go through and practicing things. So, like, it ended in late 238 or early 237 BC with a Carthaginian victory. An expedition was then prepared to reoccupy Sardinia. You know, and it doesn't have to be some complicated thing. I think oftentimes I've talked about the old Harvard sentences. Do I have that bookmarked? Let me see if I can pull that up. Harvard, not review. Sentence. Oh, I'm going to show this. I love how this is still like the only, like the main link here. I'm going to paste this or copy this. I'm going to put this in various chats. This is a good resource. This is a very useful thing. Anybody can practice Harvard sentences. Let's bring this over to, in case anybody's on Facebook right now. Facebook. Other Facebook. Thanks, Joy. Oh, it's so good to see Joy on here. Hi, Joy. Aw, that makes me very happy. One more on YouTube. Don't want to forget YouTube. And yeah, so Harvard sentences. And then one more thing I'm actually going to do with that is bump, not just window capture. Okay. It's okay. Oh, I'm in the stream. you're gonna see for a sec. Whoa, we're in borax box land, seeing streams within streams. There's the Harvard sentences. You can see me below like a goofball that I am. And the old Harvard sentences, they're a really great thing you can practice. You go through this like the birch canoe slid on the smooth planks, right? Or, practicing, we're going back to that monotone thing, right? The birch canoe slid on the smooth planks, right? Like that kind of very measured, basic monotone version. You could go in like, the birch canoe slid on the smooth planks, or the birch canoe slid on the smooth planks, or the birch canoe slid on the smooth planks, or the birch canoe slid on the smooth planks. 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 Like try stuff out like that. And emphasize, there's like, I don't know how many lists here. There's like 100 lists of 10 words or 10 sentences. No shortage of sentences you could practice. Just go through it. You can read it in any voice, breathy voice, pinchy voice, your hybrid voice that you're trying to perfect. You can go through and practice emphasizing different words with pitch or with squeaks. And you can have lots of material to work with there. It's a great resource. Oh, I clicked back without thinking. I forget. I'm so used to. Sorry, it's probably weird to see so many boxes within boxes. I'm trying to find my cursor again. Please forgive my continued buffoonery on stream. There we go. That's what I want to do. Right. Like a kite. What else we got happening? I know I missed some... Okay. Moaning from Dizzy. Right. So. Usually I would practice that in the sense of an O. And it is tied into this ah, as I was saying, the squeak, right? I'm going to need some water before this for sure. So I remember being really self-conscious practicing breathy O as well as pinchy O, because O, for obvious reasons, is going to be sounding like certain sounds that a person might be making when they're feeling really great. And I would practice say on pitch, like the old scales we often do, like oh, 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 oh. Doesn't quite sound like an orgasm say just yet, but I often would wonder. Oof, all this work is actually making me a little warm in the jorm, as nobody says on Earth, but I just said now, and I'm going to pretend it's a saying. It's a hot one. What's my hair doing? What's going on? No, you don't want to use your falsetto. Oh, you actually do totally use your falsetto at times. I can talk about that in a sec. But anyways, moaning, right, before I got distracted by my hot shirt. So going up in pitch on O's was a good way to start. And you do it in pitchy too. Oh, 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 oh. That's starting to get into, I think, probably more orgasm-y sounding territory. So you might make some people feel weird if they can hear you through the thin walls of your apartment. Who knows? But that's, as you could sort of hear there, I was getting higher up into my face and trying to shrink it down as I went higher. The that's the start. And then, as I was saying, learning to combine those two, right? The or oh, 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 oh. See, I'm just using more of the nasal, a bit of that, and the, breathy. A clever combination of breathy and pinchy goes a really long way. So, yep, practicing those moans can take a lot of forms. It doesn't necessarily have to be an orgasmy one, too. It could just be, oh. It's kind of a combination of tight into releasing breath. Like the yawn I was talking about. Releasing into breath, right? That was a fucking dumb day, let me tell you. Right? Catching it in here. That's another kind of moaning you can practice too, right? Basically, like all things, going through a combination of pinchy and breathy is how you're going to manage a good... I assume, because honestly, if somebody's asking me about a moan, I assume they're asking about an orgasm moan. That is a point of, I know, of one, euphoria, and two, dysphoria for a lot of us. Yeah? We want to make sounds that are affirming. Perhaps in our most vulnerable moments. Perhaps in our most authentic moments. And yes, it is possible to train ourselves to make authentic sounding sounds that are authentic for ourselves in a moment, like, say, coughing, laughing, being startled, being caught off guard, your orgasm moan. These things are moments where we might not think we're in charge. It's an automatic response. You can train that. It's a matter of catching yourself, learning to catch yourself. You can actually do, like, basically, yeah, sneezing's another hard one. You could do, I'm going to use coughing, I think, because it's the easiest one, I think, to demonstrate. You'd start with a fake version, and you'd learn to catch yourself during it. So, say, yeah, I'm just going to try, like, a very, like, again, this goes back to my point of I've trained myself to not do bad habits, so it's actually difficult for me to recreate bad habits in a demonstration here. But I'm going to try. Starting with a kind of like, like chesty cough. And I'm starting out somewhere heavy, chesty. Maybe I don't want to be there. Maybe I want to be somewhere more girly. Got to cough like a girl, otherwise the cis won't accept you, right? So it's like I would learn to catch myself in that tight spot and that nasally high up spot, maybe going higher in pitch and higher into my face at the end. So like, you know, learning to kind of catch that. And I do that a bunch. And eventually get more now. I honestly don't feel like this sounds very natural. People in my Discord, people who actually talk to me, they've definitely heard me cough. And it's more like, oh, that's fake. That's a fake cough there. I swear when I cough, it doesn't sound fake. I'm going to have to, like, maybe I'll light up my bong at the end of this or something. We'll see what a cough sounds like. But you learn to tighten up and get it into your face more. And then you catch yourself. You get into a spot that sounds more natural. And then eventually you can do that. You know, you cough in real life. And you're starting out coughing and it's like, oh, I'm doing that cough I don't like. It's heavy and in my chest. Like, but I have practiced catching myself. And I can go up into my face more and go higher. I'm really trying to do a cough now, like, oh, I'm getting more breath into it now. I'm not going into my chest. I'm keeping it breathy and up here. And I caught myself, even if I'm going into a more authentic place. Same with laughing. Same with your moans. And, yeah, it's just a matter of kind of practicing these things that you think you're not in charge of. But if you practice some version of it that you are in charge of, and then, take control over it during the course of it, you'll learn how to take control even during a version of it that started out not in control, if that makes sense. Well, we're at 7 p.m. here now, but I don't want to leave anybody high and dry, so I'm going to check out any final questions. If you have any final question, this is your chance. Get it on over. I try to keep lots of different platforms open just to make sure I'm not missing anybody. I realize the majority of people watching are on Twitch, though. That's why I focus on there. YouTube. Am I missing anyone on YouTube? Oh, hey, cutie. Haven't talked to you in a while. Hope you're well. Actually, cutie was someone I credit with helping me discover a lot of stuff about voice for me. Cool, Zool. I haven't seen any new questions about voice, but I'm not going to just jump away straight away. If you have any other questions for me in general, any comment, or anything you'd like me to cover in a future video, you should let me know right straight away. Oh, here's one. What came in late? How come that's not showing up anywhere else? I just looked a second ago. But what should an absolute beginner do? Yeah, sure. Let's do that. So, as I mentioned, the basics, breathy, pinchy, the trying to get air on your hand. Where's my little goofy Bort post graphic? Put it in H is what I say. You give it a little bit of a H. Hey, he, hi, ho. You're going to get a bit more of that breathiness coming out in your voice. And it's going to soften it. Whew. Getting lightheaded from all that. Breathiness, softness by trying to get air on your hand, giving yourself a bit of an H. Deep breath in. If you feel lots of warm air on your hand and you're making a very light, soft, airy sound, then that's good. You're doing the breathy voice. Do that with different sounds. Hey, thanks for the tip there, Nixel. That's a really big help. Any little bit helps. And I'm so glad my little custom graphic things are also coming up for freaking once. OBS. Yeah. Doing the breathy and different sounds. We got your hey, he, hi, ho. We've got, different, I've done it. I don't want to look up for it. Random sounds. My friend Ray made a random sound generator. You've got your, this is the voice I want to use. That's the next step from there. And to take a step back, if you're not able to get lots of air and still make a nice sound, just do it without sound. Do the non-voiced. You're just breathing it out in the shape of a sound. You're non-voiced, as I call them. And I know for a fact lots of other voice trainers call them, but I swear I wasn't copying them. We're going, hey, hey, hi, oh. Getting lightheaded just from that. Been talking a while here. If you ever get lightheaded doing these, take a sip of water. And doing it like that. Oh, I just lost my mouse, and I'm definitely going to need to get it back. One sec. I keep my tablet in my lap, so I presumably can control all this with my tablet, but sometimes it just decides, oh, no, it doesn't work on web browsers. So, mouse it is, like a caveman. Yeah, so the non-voiced, you're just breathing it out. You're just trying to it's like you're just breathing, right? But that's going to just get you in the habit of getting that air out onto your hand, but in, like, as I say, the shape of a sound without actually making a sound. Because when you make a sound, you're probably going to tighten up here a little bit, and maybe it's going to cut you off from your breath a little bit, yeah? So, yeah. Start with the breathy, I would recommend, and start with also the non-voice version of the breathy. Yeah, I did see that you're changing your voice to Robin Adams Scarecrow, so Robin Adams. Cool, I support you in this, as I support all people in all their name changes. And when Robin and I have been talking about a few different exciting things, I'm going to make sure I'm calling you Robin there. Because we don't want to dead name people. I don't know if it's appropriate to call that a dead name in this case, but I'm going with it. Yep. Just checking around. I don't want to miss any final things. I am going to go in a sec over to my Discord, because I do want to check in with my Discord too. Did you know I have a Discord? I have a Discord. Discord is where you can chat with me, Bria, while I'm working, realistically, because I spend pretty much all my time working and drawing stuff, right? And I'm on there in voice chat, talking with whoever feels like chatting with me. And you actually can, during that time, get feedback on your voice. I'm always happy to answer people's voice questions while I'm working, for the most part, unless I'm like super focused on something, and then I'll be like, hey, can this wait a little bit? And, only cool people are on my Discord, so usually they're like, yeah, Bria, that's cool. That can wait a little bit. And I'm like, wow, thanks. You're a really understanding person in my own mind. But aside from that, yeah, Discord. You can talk with me there. You can get feedback on your voice. And after all these sessions I do every Thursday, I go and do voice feedback with my beloved Discord. I, sign in and they go, hey, Bria, I had trouble with this thing we were doing tonight. Or, oh, hey, Bria, I've been practicing this lately. Can you listen to it? Or, oh, hey, Bria, I just want you to hear my voice. Tell me what you think of my speaking voice right now. And I'd be like, oh, I think you should focus on this. Or, hey, I really like your use of that. I think you should emphasize it more. Or, I'd always try to give very positive feedback. I don't like to say, well, that sucks, because that's not helping anybody, right? That's not useful. You got to phrase it in the term of, I think you need to focus on this, because that's what we're doing. We're training. It's all a work in progress. My voice, even though I barely actively work on it, it's a work in progress. I'm trying to improve certain aspects of it. And it's just about recognizing that we're all trying to get stronger at this or that. I've been leaving put it in H this whole time. It's silly. We're all trying to get stronger in one way or another, and there's always higher heights you can reach. And it's just a matter of understanding what you want to focus on and what you should be focusing on. And the purpose of a good teacher is to say, I see what you're doing, I see what you're trying to do, and I think for you to get to where you want to go with it, you should try this. And that's how I prefer to give feedback to people. So what I'm going to do, I guess in a few minutes here, a few seconds, after we're done this whole question answer period, is I'm going to head on over to my beloved Discord, see how everybody's doing there, check in with them, answer any questions they've got about tonight or anything else they're doing with their voice. And then I'm going to draw cartoons, and you can keep on chatting with me, and it's going to be a great old time. And at the end of all that, the way you get on my Discord, well, there's no one way to get on, but the one surefire way to get on is to support me on Patreon. It does take up a fair bit of my time to run these voice sessions, as well as, any other things I'm doing on the Discord. I'm not the only person that makes it run. We've got lots of wonderful mods making it run, and I appreciate the heck out of them. And I don't want to make it seem like, oh, you need to give me money because I run the Discord. But if you pay me money, heck yeah, you get on the Discord. If you're wanting to pay me money because I do free voice resources for people, you should get on my Discord. You deserve it. And then you can get the feedback on your voice, right? I don't like to make it a transactional thing because capitalism is the big evil of our world, but at a certain point, as an artist, all my stuff I do is tied together, and compensation for my time is very helpful. So if you want to support me on Patreon for $2 a month, that gets you an automatic link into the Discord. And if you're somebody, though, you're really having a hard time with your voice, maybe you've been doing the voice lessons, you've been doing my videos now for a while, and you're just not having any luck with it, send me a message and I will be more than happy to get you some feedback on your voice, either in a closed session we do just together or with a link to my Discord so you can just, you know, have a, feedback going on. I don't like to turn anybody away. I never want anyone to go without voice resources. I don't want anybody to have dysphoria about their voice. So it's never an easy answer of how do you get on the Discord? Well, yes, you can pay me, but also if you really need it, you're going to have it, because if you really need to have the voice you deserve to have and that you want to have, I want you to have it. That's the main thing with all this voice training. Everybody deserves to have the voice that they like speaking with and feels right for them, regardless of what capitalism or capitalism isn't. Big wingless, that's very awkward. Don't make me say that again. Says about it. Just because you can't pay for it doesn't mean you shouldn't get to have it, especially if it's something you might die without. And dysphoria is a killer. And on that note, I think we could be going, but I finish off all my sessions with this, and I would like you to join me in on this. I like to finish off with the Dojo Kun. Oh, it does this every time. I don't know why. I like to reveal my Dojo Kun one piece at a time, but we've got it all here. I'm just gonna... and it makes it easier to follow along with. I want you to say this in your best voice. Maybe your breathy voice, maybe your pinchy voice, maybe your hybrid voice, maybe your voice you've been practicing, your speaking voice, whatever voice you want to say this in that feels most affirming to you at the end of this session in this moment. Please follow along with me in reciting our Dojo Kun. Repeat after me. I am not defined by my past. My voice is an instrument of my will. I believe in my ability to learn new ways of being in the world. I deserve to speak with a voice that feels right for me. Changing my voice is an act of self-love and self-care. Each day, I am growing, changing, and moving closer to my goals. I have already achieved what I previously thought impossible, just by existing as I currently am. The only standard I measure myself by is my own. I love you all so much. Thank you so much for joining me tonight. Thank you for all your really great questions. I hope this helped clear some things up for people. These are all my Patreon supporters as of, honestly, I say every week, oh yeah, crap, I forgot to update it. I didn't update it yet this week. But this is a pretty recent version of my Patreon supporters. And if you don't see your name on here, crap, I'm really sorry. You should be on this list. I'm going to do it. I'm going to update this tonight. So that way next week for sure. Oh wait, that doesn't help if I get any new Patreon supporters. But I'm still going to do it. And then for sure, even if I forget to do it before next week, it's a more updated list. This is all beside the point. I love my Patreon supporters. All that stuff I do happens because of you. Thanks for every bit of support I get. Everyone who tunes in, everyone who comments, everyone who asks questions, everyone who subscribes. I love y'all. Keep on training. Don't give up. Believe in yourself. And don't be afraid to give yourself a little rest, too, because you deserve that. I'll see you next week. We're going to do a regular voice workout, just like we always do. And I'm excited for what 2021 holds for voice training. See you next time. Bye.